Cool. Who's up next?
Bates, thank you.
No worries. Who's up next? It's funny, but women get mad and they just walk by and have them. They don't say anything, right? Is that interesting?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey.
What do you mean that women deserve less? Could you explain that more clearly?
Men need to enter relationships with women with a healthy level of skepticism.
Why is that?
Because most women, unfortunately, don't provide a reciprocal amount of value to a man in a relationship. And if they enter in giving her more, well, they're probably going to take an L in the long run.
What kind of value do you say that women aren't providing? What are they lacking in?
Well, a lot of modern-day women don't respect most men. A lot of them don't respect male authority. A lot of them think that men are below them. A lot of them think that they deserve the world simply by existing. A lot of them don't think that they need to cook or clean or adhere to certain, traditional feminine roles. Basically, they can do whatever they want, and their roles are malleable to whatever they want versus your roles are static as a man.
But why should a woman have a traditional role? Why should she be home cleaning and doing all this bullshit that women in the past have been fucking miserable doing? Nowadays, there's more women doctors, AI, engineers. They're doing better jobs than men. They're getting lower suing, like they have less things
Yeah,
like
but
that.
what's the cost of that?
The cost of them is working and going to college and thinking, using their brain.
But what is the cost of that, though?
I was just trying to say, instead of sitting around and letting a man have his authority over her and tell her what to do and where she's going to be and how many kids she's going to have and how many people she should fuck and whatever else you're trying to say. If all women deserve less, does it mean every woman or just a subset of women?
Yeah, so what you just described is like women entering the workforce and like feminism. And I would argue that's a big problem with why we have the society that we have, right? We have marriages in the toilet. We have divorce rates, highest they've ever been. We have women on more SSRIs and antidepressant medication ever before, despite the fact that they have more privileges and access than they've ever had before, most educated, but yet they're still unhappy. We have, an epidemic of single mothers. We have a bunch of children that don't have a father. We have a bunch of kids that are running around being degenerates. We have school shooters all over the place. We have an enormous amount of crime. The economy is in the shitter.
But that's their fault. That's not women's fault.
No, what I am saying is a symptom of that, of the country declining, a big component of that is due to feminism.
How
because
does
feminism,
wait.
I'll explain. Let me go through.
No, you're not making sense. You're throwing out things and they're not making sense. So you're saying there's a high crime rate. You're saying that men are not being respected and all that, and it's all because of feminism. Okay?
Yes, because...
Give me an example.
Yeah, I'll explain. So when you look at the degradation of society, it's typically directly rooted to the destruction of the nuclear family. The nuclear family is the backbone of any thriving society. The thing that hurt and impeded, or some would even say killed the nuclear family in the West, especially the United States, was feminism. Because thanks to birth control and the rise of feminism and the rise of free love in the 1960s, what basically has happened is women have said, oh, I make my own money now. If I make my own money and I have my own status, well, I don't need a man anymore. And what's ended up happening is
What's wrong with that?
Well, that destroys the nuclear family. That's my point.
But what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
Destroying the nuclear family. Societies change. Things change. Women don't need to be sitting around being married to someone and answering to someone and saying, hey, I can't have a high body count. They should be able to go fuck who they want, do whatever they want, and be happy. Okay, instead of sitting at home waiting for some guy. Let's just reverse things a minute, okay? Let's say that someone told you got to sit around and you got to be moral, and any girl you want to fuck, you can't do it because women think that's wrong. And you will behave and do as you're told and live a miserable life. You say women are more on, mentally ill drugs or whatever? That's because they're sick of their lives. They're sick of being told what to do. They want a career. They want to travel.
They're not told what to do anymore is precisely my point. They have all the freedom, yet they're still on antidepressant medication.
No, they have more freedoms now. They're just starting to get more freedoms.
No, they've had them for a very long time.
Very little.
And they're still having higher suicide rates. They're on more antidepressant
males
medication.
have higher suicide rates.
No, I'm saying women have higher suicide rates now than before is my point.
Younger Gen Z and millennial women do have some higher.
So as things have gotten better for women, they've made more money, gotten more education, become, contributing members of society. Everything has gotten better for them, yet they're less happy.
Everything hasn't gotten better.
They're
still around. They're still judges pigs and losers if they're winners.
I would argue they're not judges.
Men are weaklings if a woman makes more than they can't fucking handle it. What'd you say?
They're not judges whores.
Oh yeah, no. Yes, they are judge whores. If a woman becomes a doctor, teacher, something that pays well, the men are automatically insecure. They fucking can't handle it. And
no,
and
the
now
promise,
men,
the
all they wanna
promiscuity
do-
is not promiscuity is not shamed to the same level that it used to be. Now, going
Correct,
back to the
correct,
whole thing.
correct,
So let me
correct.
make sure I
And
understand
you're
this.
right.
So you don't think the destruction of the nuclear family is what led to society going and decaying?
Wait, you're saying if a rock falls and breaks, did it break? You
No,
need to say what you're saying differently.
what I'm saying is that my argument is the nuclear family is the backbone of a society.
I don't believe the nuclear family is a backbone.
Okay,
of
so that's
society.
where we disagree. I
Right,
think
we definitely disagree with
Yeah,
that.
I think the nuclear family is the backbone of a society, a thriving society.
Right, but if that's the case, let's imagine that you're right for 3 seconds, okay? What you're saying out here is women deserve less. So why would I want to be a part of a nuclear family where a woman deserves less? Where I'm putting in the same work or more, but I deserve less?
Yeah,
You
because
explain that to me.
the point I'm trying to make is the reason why is because modern day women are no longer traditional women. Still
What does
expect you
that
to
mean?
be-
They fucking people?
Get more promiscuous, they're more rude, they don't respect male authority.
Okay,
They think
but
that
wait. Why should they? Why shouldn't a woman sleep around if she wants? Why?
there's a bunch of problems with that.
Give me one.
Women that sleep around tend to have more mental instability. They tend to have problems with pair bonding. They tend to be more miserable, sad, more likely to use alcohol, abuse drugs. This is
what
why women that are
age?
sex workers and porn stars almost always end up.
Everyone goes through an immaturity stage, okay? People like to go off to college, they like to fuck, they like to have a good time, but then at a certain point they say, okay, I've had enough. I want someone who loves me and cares about me, or I don't want anyone who loves me. I get there's a lot of trauma in people's lives. 25% of women have been sexually abused. There's a lot of problems out there. It isn't just the backbone of society, this marriage thing you keep talking about. You know,
Yeah,
and women are doing better than men, and they're going to be pulling the strings. They're the ones that are going to be controlling AI, medical, the intelligence agencies. Let's not forget who got bin Laden. It was a female intelligence agent. Okay,
Yeah, but who went and actually shot him?
who went out and shot him? U.S. Special Forces. But
And
a
those-
woman told him
and
where
those,
he was.
And those were all men.
But a woman told him where he was.
And the thing is, that team that you mentioned, that you're talking about, that caught bin Laden, it was majority men. Yeah, there was a woman that headed it, but
So what?
it was a majority of
If
men.
it's the majority of men, but the woman figured it out, who's the smarter of them?
No, she was just a supervisor.
Just the supervisor.
She was just a supervisor.
There was a woman FBI agent who told Bill Clinton they're going to crash planes into the buildings, and he laughed her off, and all the male agents laughed her off. So, sorry, women are in intelligence agencies, women are way more intelligent than men. And they're getting better in AI, which is the future, and they're getting better in medical, science, cancer research. Women are blowing men away. And they
Men-
don't want to live in a traditional role where they come home. And you're saying down here that women deserve less. I'm going to ask you again. All women deserve less, or just women who don't suck up to men? Which
Again,
one is
like
it?
I said before, I said it from the beginning. When I say women deserve less, I'm talking about from a relationship perspective.
From what
being
perspective?
skeptical from a relationship perspective. You're
Militia?
giving relationship.
A relation. Okay.
And then you went ahead and talked about the professional stuff. Look, I mean,
No,
we
I
get-
talked about sleeping around, professional stuff,
Yeah, you
SSR,
literally-
antidepressant. I talked about it
Yes,
all. Suicide.
and I'm telling you that as women have become able to attend school and
Mm-hmm.
make money and get these careers, their depression and their sadness and their life happiness has gone down alongside that. Is what I'm trying to explain to you.
But
Just
that's a
because there
small
are some women-
percentage. And men's
I
and
mean, it's
men's
pretty
depression has
significant.
gone up too.
Men,
Men-
but men have always been, because we have a burner performance on us. Now women are starting to
because men are
experience that.
weaker.
No.
Yeah,
no.
They commit
No.
suicide at a higher rate. They're more depressed. Okay, they can't handle shit. If a girl tells them to fuck off or cheats on,
Yeah,
they
because
go home like a bitch.
Because men have a significantly harder life than women do.
Men have a harder life than women.
Absolutely, yes. In modern day
25%
society.
of all females have been sexually molested. It's like 8% for men. You're telling me that men have a harder life?
Men, yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, and give me three ways.
Men absolutely. See, here's the thing. People, homeless people, drug addicts, people that are, suffering, right? Depression, sadness. It's overwhelmingly men. And the reason why is because with men, there aren't the same social safety nets that are there for women. For women, they're
What are
able
you
to.
talking about? Anyone that doesn't have a penny can get off the street right now. Camilla's
There
house, you
are
go to
far
psychology
more-
today. And if there's more
there
men,
are
if
far
there are more
more-
men on the
there
street
are far
depressed,
more-
that means they're weaker. They can't go get help.
Yeah,
Why
but-
can't they go see a
But what I'm
doctor?
saying is that
but a woman
with men have significantly less social resources than women do. And here's the thing also.
No, they don't.
Wait,
No, they don't.
now we're just.
Okay, give me one
Okay,
fact to back
let's move
that
to
up.
the next person. We can't even have a
you
discussion.
can't handle the facts.
No.
okay?
You don't
And
have
you
facts.
say women
You're-
deserve
you're-
less. Does
you're
that
lying.
include your mom?
You're
Does that
lying.
include your sister?
You're lying. That's the
No, I'm
thing
not
is that we
lying.
can't even
I'm
have
right.
an intellectual
You're wrong.
conversation.
I'm right. You're wrong.
All right.
Okay?
No, you
And
are
you're making a fool
absolutely
of
wrong.
yourself.
No,
And
you
you're
made a fool of
and all
yourself.
these little George Tate or Andrew Tate guys that think you're cool.
These are all facts,
and
man.
He's a fucking
These
child
are
molester.
facts.
He runs women. He's a piece of shit.
These are facts. These are facts.
Huh?
What I'm saying is, like, we can't even have a discussion on facts because you're saying, oh, that's not true.
If you can't even
concede that there are far more social programs for women than men, then we can't even have a discussion. Because
I said that there's plenty of social programs for men, and they don't take advantage of them because they're too macho
for women.
To swallow their fucking pride and say, Doc,
there's
I need
far
help.
more for women, and like I said before, men live a significantly harder than women do because women are able to be a housewife if they want. They can to the workforce. They have more ability
so they
to
deserve
do
less.
what they want to do.
They deserve less. Then.
Within the confinements of a relationship, you must be skeptical, yes.
Skeptical, you're saying they deserve less.
Yeah, and then
so you're spitting on women is what you're doing.
Okay.
Every woman that walks by, you deserve less because
look, man, if you want to be a social justice warrior, that's fantastic, but let's get to the next person.
Okay, right. I know. You can't take what I'm saying anymore.
No, because you're just virtue signaling at this point.
I'm not virtue signaling.
You're
the one virtue signaling.
You're virtue signaling at this point.
You're the next
You're virtue signaling at this point.
And in the end, women are going to win.
Okay, we'll bring on the next person.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Thank you for your time. Who's up next? And that's progressive talk right there.
What's up, bro? Seen on
How
the
are you?
pods. It's crushing. For an argument, could you define what you mean real quick in a more into context? Like when you say less value,
I
less
literally just
attention,
went over
less
that with the other
resources?
guy.
30 seconds.
I literally just went over that.
15 seconds. Less what? Less attention?
I
less
said it. Just not even said men need to approach relationships and dealing with women from a skeptical standpoint.
Well, that's a little different than women deserve less, but I think
yes,
I agree
assume
with
that
you.
they deserve less unless they prove they deserve more. Yes.
Okay, that's a tough argument because I think I agree with that. But the thing where I disagree, because I've watched some of your content.
Sure.
So I'll pick on points that I think I disagree with.
All right, what do you disagree with?
Do you think you value commitment to a woman?
Can we turn up that mic?
Do
the
you?
music is loud. Sorry, say that again.
Do you value commitment to a woman?
If it's the right woman, yes.
Okay. Can I
But
ask
that
you
commitment has to be earned.
Facts, 100%. You preach a message a lot right now that the masses is that women are basically like a lot of what I would consider Miami women that are going after value, that are kind of going after them for basically their money in a sense, for lack of better words. And I think what's missing potentially part in your message is that it's like you probably don't speak enough about the fact that commitment to a woman, at least in a biblical stance, which not everyone's Christian, not everyone's ever, but there's a reason why biblical is the way it's written, that it goes church, Christ, man, woman, marriage. There's a reason that it's written that way, and I think part of your message is missing that it's like, are you married?
No.
Or do you want to get married?
I will in the future.
Why?
But not with the state involved.
Not with what?
Not with the state involved.
Okay, that's fair.
That's a whole other conversation.
With who involved?
Oh, I think it's a union between man and woman and God. But what I'm saying is that, right? So, look.
Okay, fair.
I see your perspective because the other guy made a religious argument as well. So, I agree with you on what you just said.
Okay.
But the problem is that most women do not observe this Christian worldview that you presented. Unfortunately.
I agree.
I wish they did.
I agree.
That was back when we were a superpower in the 50s.
I agree.
But now we live in a secularized world where most women think it's okay to kill babies.
Yep.
They don't believe in male authority.
Yep.
They don't respect men in general, masculinity.
Facts.
And most importantly, they don't respect the concept of men are above women.
Okay.
If I was to say women are supposed to obey men, most women will bucket that and say that's bullshit. Obviously, you would agree with me because you come from the Christian world, my worldview. But the problem is that we no longer have these things in place to keep women in check, unfortunately.
I agree with you a lot, which is probably the problem. However, I will say one thing.
Yeah.
I think that a root of the problem, a lot of the root of the problem is not the women. The women in Miami down here that are running around and acting like the way they act is because of the weak fucking men we have in this country. Because the men aren't stepping up and they're fit, because they ain't got no wealth, because they're not stepping up into... Correct, because men aren't stepping up into the men they're supposed to be created to be. If more men stepped up and said, I'm going to be a leader, and the man that I'm supposed to be, I'm created, I'm divine, I'm going to follow my purpose, I'm going to do the things that God's calling me to be, I'm going to be fit, I'm going to be wealthy, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to wake up early. If men did more of those things, I think women would actually have more of a breed to go after and more actual men to go after. The problem is that for as many women as there are that are out here hoeing around, there's double as many men being weak men that aren't stepping into their purpose.
Yeah, for sure. There's many problems that I've been able to identify with this: the destruction of the nuclear family, men not necessarily adhering to their roles. But I think something that we don't talk about because we're so easy to criticize men, which I do this all the time as well. But we never talk about, you know, the invisible column, which is feminism.
Sure.
And, you know, this feminism has created a lot of problems. And to talk about that gets you labeled a misogynist, gets you banned off social media.
Okay,
gets you,
I think
get what I'm saying?
I think that's bullshit. But however, at the same time, okay, let's say.
But we know that that's the problem.
YouTube bans Fresh and Fit. Then what? Fresh and Fit figures it out. Whatever, anybody, it's a responsibility aspect. So if we're preaching the concept and we're preaching the responsibility to men, I think, more importantly, if men stepped up way more than the way they're stepping up today, the women in this country would respond. If you point the finger at the women are going to be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, why? Because there's a bunch of fucking weak men running around.
Yeah.
You step up as a man, and as you preach that message, you have a bunch of men stepping into their calling, into their purpose. I can guarantee you the woman problem already solves itself, just like everything else.
Again, like I said, for sure, I agree with you. Like that, the men are obviously not adhering to what they're supposed to adhere to. But like I said before, we already bash the men enough and say men need to step up, etc. This has been the.
I disagree.
No, that's absolutely. They've been demonizing men for a very long time.
I think modern feminism men do, which I think is bullshit, and I agree with.
No,
I don't think men, you men, me men, like men have men-to-men conversations and say, "Yo, you need to step it the fuck up." I don't think enough men are having that conversation. But
like I said before, we already hold men's feet to a fire to perform. Okay, we already do that, right? And men have been ostracized from society for being losers, etc. My point is that we don't hold that same level of accountability on the female side. Is my point. Now, religion used to do that.
Yes.
Religion, shame, family, society.
Correct.
They used to do that, but
Yes.
guess what? Those guardrails are now gone. So since those guardrails are gone, where religion doesn't matter, girls can be whores.
Preach that message.
There's feminists, etc. But
think
here's
about
the thing.
that. Preach that message.
We're never going back.
Preach that message. Bring that shit back, and I can guarantee you right now, the rest of the problem will solve itself.
And this is the religious argument that guys make.
Hold on.
Look.
You're pointing a finger at a symptom, not the root. You say the root. Men, you step the fuck up and you solve your problems. 99% of the shit you're talking about is solved. It's just like businesses. It's just like podcasts. Oh, YouTube demonetized me. You're the problem, brother. Fix it. You fix your own shit. You end up rising to the problem and solve and make a solution just like it would be for women.
Again, like I said before, that's all ideal. That's all great. But the reality, like I said before, is that what's ideal versus what's real are really two different things. And
fair.
this religious idealism, it used to be the thing that kept women in line, but it's gone now. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
I think I'll agree with you that that's what's happening today, and I'll agree with you on that.
Yes, that's
But I do
the problem.
think that and I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Feminism
and modern feminism is fucking
feminism,
bullshit.
while secularizing the country, have led to this big problem. But that's what you can't talk about, is my point. We could sit here and point the finger at men all the time. We do.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But to point it on the other side, that's when you start getting censored. That's when you start getting banned. That's when you start getting shadow banned. That's when
Which
you
I agree is
when you
bullshit.
have issues. So that's what I'm saying, is that we never talk about that problem. Trust me, I've talked about men being bums and losers, etc. I tell guys all the time, you shouldn't even date unless you can provide for her and yourself. But we already know that. We don't talk about the other problem.
All right, last point, because I think this is where we agree on too many things to make this a
sure. And there's a
beautiful
huge line
comment.
here too. So
last thing is, if the message was bringing back what you just said mattered, which is a lot of the biblical times, a lot of the biblical principles, bringing back the men stepping into their calling, men stepping into their purpose. If that was the core message to men right now, and that was spelt louder, that was spoken more, that was spoken in a more frequent message, to me, this is my opinion, which is why I'm on this mic, speaking about the woman in Kyle's eyes, which in a man's eyes is like, you're wasting your time, you're spending your energy on something where you're speaking about a symptom when you could be speaking about the root. And the root, in my opinion, is the fact that men are not stepping into their calling enough in this country. And if you did that shit more right now, I can guarantee you right now, a lot of it, you wouldn't be here on this corner.
Trust me, we do.
There'd be more shit.
We do. We have episodes dedicated to guys stepping their stuff up all the time.
Well, let's fucking go. I'll be on the next one of those.
Yeah. Okay, who's up next? Thank you for coming on.
What's up, my man?
What's up, man?
What's your name again? I've seen you before, but I'm sorry. What's your name?
It's Myron.
Myron. Nice. I'm Justin. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I saw the sign. I have one opinion of this. I don't think that. I think deserve comes down to a thing of merit, right? Like if a woman has the same qualifications as a man in the same field, why not? She doesn't deserve less than a man, right? If a man is getting paid for more for something than a woman with less merit, then I think that becomes the argument. But I think that honestly.
Are you speaking from like a professional perspective?
No, absolutely not. I just think it comes down to merit based. I don't think it should be based on race.
No, but I'm saying
gender.
You're saying like if they both have the same job and have the same merits.
Qualifications.
Yeah, I'm not speaking from that perspective.
Okay, what are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from a more a relationship perspective versus professional perspective.
In that perspective, I think it comes down to still what they bring to the table. I think historically and traditionally, men are considered to be the ones to provide, and women are the ones that are there to nurture children and to kind of take care of some of the homework while the man provides for the family. I actually agree with that, to be honest with you. And I mean that in no disrespect to women. I think if there's a woman in a relationship...
Hold on. Let me stop you real quick.
Okay.
Notice how you had to say, I mean that in no disrespect to women. That is precisely why I'm here
doing
this, because the problem is that women look at it as it's an insult to tell them to be a lady or behave like a lady. But if someone tells you, be a man, get a job, support a family, we don't get mad at that. We understand that's our duty. But them, on the other hand, they get angry when you say, hey, I want you to be in the house and take care of the family, or hey, we want women that are going to take care of kids. They get angry at that.
Fair enough.
Right?
I believe if a woman's in a position to take care and do the providing financially, and a man stays home and takes care of the kids, and she's okay with that, and there's no assumption of responsibilities there, that's just as good. I think that sometimes these taboos get carried away of like, I'm supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. I think it's situational with people where if you are the one and a man is just confident enough to accept your role as the provider and he stays home and he's not the breadwinner, to let him do that. But I think
that simply doesn't work in most situations, though.
In most situations,
I know that'd be ideal for a lot of guys, but the reality is most women are not going to be okay with being the breadwinner and coming home to a guy taking care of the house. They're just not going to want that.
Well, most of the time it's because women that are the breadwinners don't want to talk to women that are broker than them.
I'm sorry?
I said most of the time it's because women that are usually the breadwinners don't want to talk to men broker than they are. They want to aim up.
Exactly.
And men will aim as low as they can go sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Just for the night. And I think that's the disparity. When it comes to deserve, that's a very situational word of do they deserve less? I think it comes down to a maturity of understanding your role and playing that role. Like, I make the most money, so I need you to do this as far as the partnership goes. And sometimes men they don't feel masculine enough to accept that, and sometimes women don't want to work up to that standard of being that role. And if they are, then usually they're dating someone much more comfortable than somebody broker than they are.
Yeah, the point basically is that I'm telling guys to enter any type of situation with a female with a healthy level of skepticism, because unfortunately most women don't have that worldview that you described of wanting to be helpmate and follow a man and everything else like that. Most women would actually bucket you if you said, hey, I need you to obey me and adhere to certain things, unfortunately.
They would be one of the ones I probably would try to bag, honestly.